Hi everyone and welcome to another edition of the weekly financial update here on RTS TV. Hope you're all well and staying safe. So this week it's been announced that the UK Coronavirus Job Retention Scheme, otherwise known as the furlough scheme, is starting to end in its current form. The scheme will close to new entrants from the 30th of June. So if you've not previously been furloughed, then from the 30th of June you won't be able to be furloughed no longer. From the 1st of July, businesses will have some flexibility in how they bring staff back. So they can start to bring staff back part-time and the government will still pay for the hours that the staff are furloughed, but businesses will now need to start paying for the hours worked. And then there'll be a sort of step-down approach to ending the scheme entirely. From August, businesses will need to pay national insurance and pension contributions. From September, the government will only pay 70% of furloughed wages, and from October only 60% of furlough wages. So I think the government we've spoken in previous weeks about just how much this scheme is costing the UK government, and they're obviously keen to get people back to work and end the scheme as soon as possible. The FTSE 100 index went through its quarterly change this week. For those of you who don't know, the FTSE 100 index is an index of the UK's 100 largest listed companies, and every quarter it basically readjusts itself. So it will drop companies that are no longer in the top 100 and add companies that are now in the top 100 in terms of market cap size. Interestingly, we saw EasyJet shares fall out of the FTSE 100 this week. Probably understandable because obviously airlines share price has been sort of smashed so much due to the restrictions on airline travel. But a quick tip for you, if you are someone that does invest in individual stocks and shares, it's worth keeping an eye on companies that are close to the FTSE 100. These are companies that will currently sit in the FTSE 250. Because if a company does go into the FTSE 100, there are a number of active and passive funds out there that basically replicate the FTSE 100. So as soon as a new company joins the FTSE 100, these types of funds will have to buy that company, which obviously will increase that company's share price. It works the same way round for companies that are falling out of the FTSE 100. So you may want to kind of get rid of those type of companies if you see them about to fall out, because these funds will obviously need to sell that company and get rid of it. In the US, as well as the social unrest we've seen due to the recent racism outrage, the big news coming was for social media companies. Basically, social media companies are currently protected in law against prosecution for the content that is shared on their platforms. So if an individual wants to post something particularly violent or inciting violence, the social media companies themselves won't face prosecution for that. But this is under review and could be subject to change. Now, this has big implications for the social media companies, because if they now have to start monitoring all the content that's shared on their platforms, this is going to be huge in terms of costs to be able to police that. And there's also the potential for massive fines if they get it wrong. This all started a bit of President Trump was throwing his toys out the pram, really, because Twitter actually added a fact-checking link to some of the tweets that he's been posting. But the bigger issue here is that social media companies are now easy targets. They've become huge companies. They make up more than 20% of the US stock market, which in turn is more than 50% of the global market. They have huge piles of cash, and governments are keen to get their hands on it, whether that's by fines or breaking the companies up into smaller bits, or stopping them from acquiring lots of new startup companies and become these big, huge conglomerates. So yeah, do watch out if you're holding social media stocks. They could be in for a rough ride in the near future. So that's it for this week. I hope you found it useful. Please leave questions, comments, and until next time, stay safe, take care, speak soon.